schedule. With that, I'd like
Marie,
to open it up.
was going to try and ask the Secretary this myself, but Andrea beat me to it.
But you'll take me next.
Yes. So anyway, these are the first two questions
Yes.
first couple of questions I wanted to ask him. One, why did he feel the need, or why did the administration feel the need to come down, to have him give a statement in full defense or full support of the UN finding? Was this because of the allegations made by President Putin and President Assad in various interviews over the last couple of days? And secondly, does the administration believe that the UN report in itself, by itself, absent your own intelligence findings, is enough to justify the credible threat of force against the Assad regime?
Well, on the first question, it's not in response to anything specific. I think the Secretary wanted to make clear some key points about the UN report, which came out earlier this week, which we've had a little chance to talk about, but he believed was very important to highlight, particularly given the ongoing Security Council negotiations and also, of course, heading into UNGA. So we thought it was an important time diplomatically for him to make a strong statement about what the UN report shows. The UN's already spoken to it, but of course the Secretary wanted to speak to it as well. On the second question, it's a hypothetical that quite frankly just doesn't exist. We think that our intelligence case that we've laid out is a very strong one. We have high confidence in it. And we've declassified an unprecedented amount of information with that report. So that intelligence case, coupled with, as you heard the Secretary say, the UN report, presents a picture of exactly what happened on the 21st.
Right. But do you think that the UN report in and of itself is enough to justify the administration's stance on threatening the use of force?
Well, we're certainly not justifying our policy based on any one report. We have developed a policy based on our own intelligence case, on our national security interests, and the UN report, as you heard the Secretary say, plays an important role in that.
The reason that I'm asking, the reason I'm so interested in this is because I don't really get it, because the administration spent the entire last week of August bad-mouthing this report, saying it couldn't achieve anything. And now, all of a sudden, it seems to be, you think it's the bee's knees.
I like your characterization.
August 27th, we've reached a point now where we believe too much time has passed for the investigation to be credible. We believe too long of a time has passed for it to be credible. We believe that, August 28th, we believe that it's too late for the UN inspection to be credible. Again, on August 28th, we believe the UN inspection has passed the point where it can be credible. And again, I'm going to repeat, let's be clear, they cannot determine by mandate culpability. They can only determine whether a chemical weapons attack happened. That was you speaking in this room.
I recognize those words.
Good.
Is there a question?
But, yeah, what happened? Why is this now the Bible? Why is this the gold standard when you spent those 2 days at least, and others did as well, just trashing the whole idea? It certainly sounds as though, or looks as though, you didn't like it when you didn't know what it was going to say.
Absolutely not.
But
Matt.
now, okay, then explain to me how it is that it's now credible when too much time had passed for it to be incredible.
So let's just take a step back and make a couple points. First, the point on culpability remains. The UN report does not by itself determine culpability. That's not its mandate.
Right. Well, except that the Secretary said that it confirmed that the Assad regime carried out the attack.
So what is included in the UN report? And then he went and laid out all of the reasons why it did. But we're all clear that it doesn't assign blame or culpability. Okay. So that hasn't changed. What we said at the time, and I said a lot of things on those few days about the UN report, so let's walk back through some of the other quotes I said, that we didn't want the regime to use this as a stalling tactic, that at that time that I made those comments, they were shelling the area, this safety situation on the ground just wasn't good for the UN inspectors, and at that point we weren't sure that we could go forward with the inspection and get a report from it. They were able to continue their work, and they came back with a report that we find to be very credible. So obviously we respond to the situation as it exists on the ground that day. The broader point was that we didn't want the regime to use this as a stalling tactic, and every day we went by where they continued to shell and the inspectors couldn't get on the ground, which were some of those days that you mentioned, was a day too long for us, in our opinion. We took a look at the report when it came in, and we believe that it's credible. Those things are in no way inconsistent.
the reason that you said that it wasn't credible at the time, or wouldn't be credible, was because too much time had passed between the actual
you're
attack.
cherry picking parts of quotes. We said that they had been shelling, that they were refusing to allow inspectors in. The secretary mentioned, let me finish, Matt, and then you can follow up with me. The secretary mentioned the interviews they'd done, which actually wasn't related to what, in collecting evidence on the ground. They were able to do interviews with survivors, with people that had treated the wounded, and they were able to get information that way as well. They were also later able to analyze some of the things he talked about in terms of scientific evidence. So we are where we are today. We have a report that we believe is credible and only backs up everything we've been saying about our intelligence case since the beginning.
Well, I just don't understand how you can say on August 28th, we believe it's too late for the UN inspection to be credible, and now to say on September 19th that it is credible, because nothing changed in that.
Everything has actually changed in that time period, Matt. As we talked about in this room, a lot has changed on this issue.
The time between the 21st, when the attack happened, and when the inspectors got in and started to do their jobs, has not gotten shorter.
But that was in the broader context.
If it was too late on August 28th, then it's too late on September 19th.
The broader context, Matt, matters here. That what we saw was shelling and destruction, systematic destruction of evidence. And that at that point, we weren't sure if the inspectors were going to get access to any usable intelligence.
Hold on a second. You weren't sure? No, you said that they wouldn't. You said that it's too
I'm not
late
going to
for the
parse words from
investigation.
2 weeks ago, Matt. I'm just not going to go down this road for 15 minutes with you.
All right.
We were at a point then when it was unclear what kind of access the inspectors would get. When it was unclear if there was any way they would get credible evidence.
When it was unclear what the report would say, when you weren't sure that it would agree with what your findings were, you thought that it was not credible.
In no way is that the case. We were confident from the beginning in our intelligence assessment about what happened here on the 21st. We in no way thought that the UN report would say that sarin wasn't used. Again, this is just a question about whether chemical weapons were used, which, to be frank, since August 21st, there hasn't been doubt in people's minds about whether chemical weapons were used here. So we never thought that the UN report would miraculously say chemical weapons weren't used here. So that's an assumption that has no basis in fact.
Well, then
Andrea,
at the time, you should have not used the word that you shouldn't have said that.
I'll take your advice on board, and I'm going to move on to Andrea. Thanks.